You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 72. How to use the power of momentum instead of motivation with Kendra Hennessy. If you're an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Before we jump into this week's episode, I want to share with you a special invitation. Now, I don't normally start my episodes like this, but I want to make sure that you do not miss out on this opportunity because it's extremely time sensitive. Are you a high performer, but your business isn't quite meeting your expectations? If so, this might just be for you. If you want to stop running around and trying to be busy, saying yes to everything, doing all the things, chasing shiny objects, getting to the end of the week and wondering, where did the time go? Camping out on the edge of that business plateau, missing out on time with your family and friends, then this program was made for you. If you dream of running your business with less stress and achieving the success you desire, that is exactly what Stop, the Entrepreneur's Success Solution is designed to do. If you're an action taker and a solution seeker and an entrepreneur who is ready to maximize profits, reduce stress, and find time for what matters most, then this program was designed for you. I'm enrolling a handful of entrepreneurs into this program. It is a 6-month group coaching and training program that will get you the results you desire in your business. I could not be any more excited about this program, as this is the program that was created from 6+ years of one-on-one coaching and consulting, diving into multiple businesses, in fact, probably hundreds of businesses and multiple industries, and finding out what it really takes to create change. If you're interested and want more information about Stop, the Entrepreneur's Success Solution, you can find out more by going to amberdelagarza.com/stop, S-T-O-P. Now, please note that I'm only looking for a handful of entrepreneurs, and we are starting the first week in October. We are going to start the fourth quarter off with a bang and get the momentum and the drive that we need in our businesses to slay our goals for 2018 and to knock it out of the park starting in 2019. So don't hesitate to take action if you think you may be interested in this program. You're going to want to head over to amberdelagarza.com/stop. I'm really excited about this episode today because you're going to meet our guest, Kendra Hennessy. Kendra Hennessy is a home management expert, podcast host, and founder of Mother Like a Boss, where she helps busy modern moms become homemaker-ish. That's her term. Her mission is to redefine homemaking in the 21st century and make the difficult and tedious parts of running your home smoother through systems, routines, and mindset shifts. She lives in upstate New York with her husband, Adam, and her 2 spunky kiddos, Ava and Everett. Kendra is a Girl Scout co-leader, quoter of The Office, and coffee junkie. She loves giving support and encouragement to moms of the world and giving them the confidence they need to enjoy life as a mother. Now, if you are a guy listening in today and thinking, what could Kendra have to say to us? I'm not the homemaker or I'm not a stay-at-home mom. Well, here's the deal. She is providing some major impact and perspective on motivation versus momentum. And I think that no matter what gender we are, we sometimes lack that motivation needed to achieve our goals. So we're going to be pulling back the curtains and chatting all about motivation. When listening in on my conversation with Kendra, you will discover the problem with waiting for motivation to strike, why momentum trumps motivation every time, tips for getting off the hamster wheel of half completing projects, ways you can lean on momentum to get your work done, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Kendra. Hello, Kendra, and welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
Hi, Amber. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
I am too, and I'm really happy that we get to talk about the topic that we chose to talk about because our listeners might not know, but I wanted to jump on a call with you a couple weeks ago just to go a little bit deeper on this topic to make sure that this was going to be a slamming episode. And you and I started chatting and it just started going so well. I was like, oh my gosh, we got to stop talking. We're not recording this. I'll see you again in a couple weeks, right? It was really good. So I think our listeners are in for a treat today.
Yeah, that was a great call. It was funny. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and then 25 minutes in, we're like, we should probably save this and record it and let other people listen to it.
Yeah, because you and I haven't officially met, and it's not often I have guests on the show that I don't personally know. And you were gracious enough to let me do my little vetting, but I guess you would understand you have a podcast too. It's just so important that if we're going to have topics or guests on the show that you're able to go deep and really, really provide value. And I am sure that's what we're going to do today. So Kendra, why don't you start off and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself in your own words, and how did you start your business, and who are your ideal clients, and how do you serve them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Kendra Hennessy. I am the CEO and founder of Mother Like a Boss. I have a podcast, the Mother Like a Boss podcast. And what I tell people is that I'm a home management strategist. So I really help moms, obviously from the title of my business, Mother Like a Boss. I'm really into helping moms become better modern homemakers is what I call it. I think that the word homemaking has gotten a very bad rap over the last probably 2 decades or so. And so I like to get rid of the antiquated feelings that go along with homemaking and really give moms the strategies and the tools to run their home better. I really subscribe to your home running like a business where you're productive, right? Where things are getting done better, where you have better systems in place, where everyone is helping. I'm really big on the mom in particular being the manager of the home, and managers don't do everything. Managers delegate to other people and they set up systems wherein everything gets done and they don't have to do everything. So that's really what I do for my moms. I have online courses that help them to run their homes. I have online courses that help them to learn how to clean. There's a lot of people out there. Thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of women out there that just never really learned how to run their home. I won't even say properly, but efficiently. And so every day they're just jumping on a hamster wheel, whether they're a stay-at-home mom or they're a work outside the home mom. They are just jumping on this hamster wheel and going until they're exhausted at the end of the day. And they're kind of busying their way through life and not actually getting anything done. So that's really where I'm helping moms, is to get better systems in place in their home, much like you would in a business, so that they can focus more on their family, so they can enjoy their children. Really what I'm after is moms being able to enjoy the act of motherhood without having all of the clutter going on in their life and in their home.
Wow, that is so amazing. I sure wish I had heard of this concept way many years ago, even before I started my business. Because, and you know this, we've already talked about this, but my listenership is not just women. It's really almost probably equal men and women. However, when I heard about what we're going to be talking about today and your business specifically, I just knew that there was so many lessons that are just transferable, because what you're teaching is the productivity, like the business. They're running their homes like a business. And I think I was probably doing this maybe before it was more common, because that's the way that my mind works, right? I ended up starting my productivity business for business owners. And so I just naturally saw my home as layers of systems and processes and checklists so that it did run much more smoothly. And I love that you're servicing moms in all levels, right? Some moms are the ones that are doing the cleaning and they are the CEO of their home. They're doing everything. And it sounds like you're also servicing the mom that's really looking at outsourcing and delegating and perhaps even building a team at home that helps run the home. So this is really phenomenal, the parallels between running a home and running a business.
For sure. Their two are very similar. Like running a business, running a home, when you can do both really productively, then you get a lot of joy out of both. So yes, They're very similar.
And I don't specialize in home, but my definition of productivity is investing your best time into your best activities. And my best activities for my personal life, like with my relationship with my son, is spending quality time with him. And when it is filled with those things like getting home, doing dinner, getting dishes, making lunches, going grocery shopping, like the busyness starts carving out that quality time, which is my high value time. So when I started looking at my business, or rather my home as a business, or in the framework or with the lens on of productivity, that's when I stumbled upon, well, I need to start delegating out some of the busy work so that I am more clear and able to focus on that quality time with my son. So I see how you could be helping so many women with also like a mindset shift in how they approach their home. But today, what we're going to be talking about is specifically the power of momentum instead of motivation. And I think that this is just a powerful conversation to have because ultimately, many of us have said or currently say, I just don't feel like doing X, Y, and Z. I'm not motivated. And I've often found that the path to success isn't always that we don't know what to do, but sometimes we're not motivated to do the hard work that it takes to get there. So let's just start having a conversation. Tell me how you stumbled upon the power of momentum instead of motivation.
Sure. I stumbled upon this really just because of my own life and the way that I was doing things, and the fact that in certain areas of my life, which I think a lot of your listeners can understand, is that we're really good at certain areas of my life. So like in my business, I was really good at getting up and doing what needed to be done. I was good. I could get up at 4 a.m. and just bust through work, get things done before the kids woke up. I felt quote unquote motivated to do that. But in other areas of my life, things that I didn't want to do, that usually was like exercise, working out, like getting up and doing those things. I wasn't really motivated to do it. So it just became an excuse not to do it. It was like, well, I'm not motivated, so I'm just not going to do it. And what I started to realize is I'm never going to be motivated to do stuff I don't want to do. And we have a very motivated, driven society now. Motivational speakers it's like a hot topic. It's a hot thing now. Motivational speakers, motivational books. Everyone is looking to be motivated to do stuff they don't want to do. And the truth is, you're never going to be motivated to do what you don't want to do. So instead, I started to look at what were little things that I could do to get me closer to my goal. Instead of waiting for the perfect time, waiting to wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and say, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to work out for an hour. This is amazing. I knew I was never going to feel that way. So instead, I was like, what could I do at 5 a.m. or 5:30 or whatever time I was waking up that would make me feel proud of myself at the end of the day? So really that was like, I could work out for 10 minutes. I could get up and I could just do something for 10 minutes. And then once I did it for 10 minutes, doing it for 15 minutes didn't seem so bad. And then once I did it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes didn't seem so bad. And it becomes a snowball. So really what momentum is, utilizing the snowball effect. You're really just starting small and building and building and building, either with small increments of time, with small increments of money, with small increments of energy, whatever it is, you're just working in small increments and building that snowball until you get to the point where you are more motivated to do it, or until you get to the point where it becomes habitual. Because both things, one of the two things usually happens. When we start to do things through motivation, we start to see progress. And when you see progress, you're more motivated to continue to do it. But it's very difficult to be motivated from ground zero. Like it's very difficult to just start from scratch and get motivated. So the momentum can create motivation down the line. Also, that momentum, doing little things, little by little each day, whether in your business or in your home, whatever it is, it then becomes a habit. So you're doing it without having to think about it, which is, for me, that's like the most productive thing I can do, is how many things can I get to be habitual in my life where I don't even have to think about doing it. So that's really where the idea of momentum versus motivation was coming in, was just from my own life, and then seeing it in my students' lives, seeing way too many of my students coming into the groups that I have attached to my courses and saying, okay, you gave me X, Y, and Z, you gave me all of the steps, but why am I not doing it? And the reason was because they were waiting to want to do it. And listen, very few people want to clean their bathroom. Like they just don't want to do it, but it needs to happen. So I just said, just start small and sort of build that snowball. That's really where it came from.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of things to unpack there. I was like rapidly taking some notes. So I love that. You were referencing the snowball effect, and we know that works, right? Like we see that that's very, very prominent in getting out of debt. The snowball effect. You pay a little bit, and then you take that money and it's reclaimed money that then you apply to the next debt and the next debt. And now you're saying you can use that snowball effect on money, which we talked about, time and energy. Now, I have found personally that there's days that I wake up and I don't feel too motivated. How about you?
Oh, for sure. Some days I wake up and I am like ready to go. I'm just ready to do all the things. And some days I wake up and I'm like, not today. It's not happening.
Yeah. And so I knew you were going to answer that way. And the reason I know that is like you, is that my clients are telling me all the time that they feel that same way. Like we're all people. We don't exactly wake up the same exact way or feeling the same way every day. And so why I love this topic about the power of momentum is that you have to do things to get that momentum, whether you feel like it or not. I often tell my clients that toddlers get to do what they feel like doing. You are an adult. And if you're running your business based on how you feel, it means your actions are going to be as erratic as your feelings. Right? Sometimes we feel like we feel good. We feel like we can conquer the world. And other times we're like, I don't really feel like being productive. Or I don't really feel like going into the office, or I don't really feel like doing that high value activity, which is in your business, generally lead generating of some sort, right? Closing deals, making money.
Yes.
And what I have personally found, and why this sits as a truth for me, is that if I don't feel like doing something and I do just take that little step like you referenced, it seems like the second one's a little bit easier. And then the third one. And then next thing you know, you're not thinking and obsessing about how you feel or don't feel. You're just in the moment of taking that action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that for me, I like to keep the outcome in mind. So I like to keep my goal in mind. Motivation, in my opinion, keeps the journey in mind versus momentum, which keeps the outcome in mind. So I'm always looking at what is the outcome I want here. So if it were like the working out, which usually tends to be the thing that I'm like slacking on, then I think of the outcome. How do I want to feel that day? And how do I want to feel a week from now and a month from now? Am I trying to lose weight? Am I trying to be stronger? Am I trying to be healthier? Whatever the outcome is, motivation tends to focus on the journey. It tends to focus on exactly what you're doing in each moment. Like you're supposed to be pumped up to do all the things all the time. And that's just not how life works. We just don't work that way where we're pumped up each moment of the day. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we're expecting to be pumped up all the time to do the things in our business that we don't really want to do. Because when we don't feel that way, then we feel badly. And we look at other people and we're like, well, they seem to be motivated to do stuff. Why am I not motivated to do stuff? And then you get into this mindset cycle of not being good enough. So I really try to keep the outcome in mind versus every single step along the way, waiting to just be like ready to go. Like you said, some mornings just are not your mornings and it's just not the day.
Right. Okay. So I have a question for you. You had referenced motivational speakers, motivational books, like movies that motivate you. Like we can go and find inspiration or motivation from a lot of different places. And Kendra, are you saying that those don't work? Is there not a place for that? Or what are your thoughts around that?
Oh, gosh, no. I think that some of my favorite ways to get pumped up to do things or to get quote unquote motivated is to read those fantastic books or to watch a really great TED Talk or something like that. But what has happened in our society is that we have made the motivation the biggest part of our lives. It's like we're waiting for someone else to tell us and give us permission to do something instead of just using those books or that talk or that speech or that conference to not really validate what we're doing, but to kind of give us the energy to do it versus giving us the validation or the permission. I think that we are a very permission-based society where we're waiting for someone else to tell us it's okay to do something instead of just doing it yourself. So I look to books. I love listening to audiobooks. They make me feel really good. They give me the inspiration that I need. But I know at the end of the day, it's on me to take what I just learned and actually implement it.
Yes, 100%. So, okay, I'm really glad that you answered that way. We might have had a debate off here. And we don't. So
that would have been awkward.
I do think that in the moment and even past the moment, that when you feel motivated, there is definitely a time and place for that. And just almost paraphrasing what you said was that I think that it can get maybe a little dangerous to always be dependent on external factors to motivate you. And the momentum, the habit of taking action, even if you don't feel motivated right in the moment, I think is a really good skill set to have to create any kind of success, whether it be in your home, whether it be with your health, whether it be in your business. Like at the end of the day, you said it's up to you to execute on what you learned, right? And to take that action.
Right. And I tell my students that all the time. Like, I can provide you with this course. I can provide you with these lessons. I can be on a live video and answer your questions. But if at the end of the day, if you're going to go and then sit on the couch and not do anything, then nothing that I said is really going to matter much. It's not going to mean anything. So I love what you were just talking about, and that it can get very dangerous expecting all of the outside validation. And I'm somebody whose love language is words of affirmation. So I really have to be careful of that I'm not always looking for some kind of outside validation or permission to do things, and instead celebrating small wins for myself. And I think that's how momentum can really turn into motivation, because when you celebrate the little things that you do each day, even if it's just like working in 20-minute blocks and then taking a 10-minute break, that's a reward. That's not, I'm going to hustle all day long and get this work done. That's like, hey, I did 20 minutes of work. Good job. Pat myself on the back. I'm going to go sit down for 10 minutes, listen to some music, and then get back to work. When I'm able to do that, I'm not focused on the outside. Like, I didn't have somebody else there like, great job, Kendra, you're awesome, or trying to motivate me. I did it for myself. And that's really where the momentum comes in.
Okay, so I'm going to give some examples for myself where I use momentum, or rather, even if I don't use momentum, what the negative results are. Like today, Kendra, when we jumped on, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I sound? Like for me, I woke up with like a cold. I don't know if I'm on the onset of it, but I definitely had a headache all day and I'm very stuffy. And I did a staycation this weekend. So I with a girlfriend where we mastermind for 3 days. So I've been working the last 3 days and playing. And so when I woke up this morning, I didn't particularly feel like getting after it, right? Like I had a few reasons why, you know what, I just needed to reset and kind of relax and whatever. I could have totally negotiated with myself right out of an entire day of work. So what I needed to do was, when I didn't feel like it, literally, because I work from at home, is get out of bed and don't think that I'm going to work on my laptop in bed. Like get up, get showered, get dressed like I was going into the office, start my day. And I'll tell you, while I didn't want to do any of those, when I hit my office and it was an environment set up for my productivity and like energy, I immediately felt different. And had I not leaned more on the momentum of really just negotiating with myself, get up, take a shower, get dressed, just go in your office. I don't know what today is. Maybe after your interview with Kendra, you're going to sleep it off because you're getting a cold. Okay, I can tell you right now, we're halfway through our interview and I don't feel that way. And so I just had to keep taking the steps to show up, and then the next steps kind of unfolded. And so today's interview, or today for me, was this exact topic all morning long, was that I was leaning on momentum over motivation.
Yeah. So it's really funny that you say that, because I had a very full day of calls, of interviews. I had 5 either calls or interviews that I had to do today. And yesterday I started to feel anxious about today. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, you say like, I'm already exhausted. I'm already exhausted for tomorrow. Well, that's such a mindset thing that we do to ourselves. Cause like now you're already starting, the day hasn't even started and you're already telling yourself you're going to be exhausted. And so this morning when I woke up, it was the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I know I have to get up and get all this stuff done and get set up for these calls. What if I lose my voice? What if I'm tired? Like all this stuff. And then I said, no, just like you said, get up, take a shower, get dressed, put on some makeup, go into your office. I am obsessed with what you said about your office being set up like for productivity and success, because that is exactly how you can get out of that funk, is when you already have things in your life set up to be productive. Like for me, again, going back to the working out, it's like having my clothes right there in the morning, having my shoes right there in the morning, literally not having any barriers between me and the thing that I don't want to do. So if it's work, it's like, what can you do right when you go in your office? It's set up. It smells good. It looks good. It feels good. When you sit down, you're ready to go. It's not cluttered with papers. There's not junk all over. So I love that you said that because that's exactly how I felt today. It's exactly the same way.
Yeah. Okay. That's so good. Some of the best conversations on Productivity Straight Talk are real examples, because I think that listeners like you, I know you're listening. You're driving, you're working out, you're walking, and it's okay for two people to be talking about it. But then when we share like real stories, they're like, oh my gosh, my morning felt the same way. And you know what, Kendra? Maybe we're part of their motivation today. Maybe we're on their journey with them this morning as they're getting the momentum they need to have the best day ever, whether that be at home or working out or in their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So can you give me any other examples of maybe like when you leaned on maybe previously before you figured out momentum over motivation? How did just leaning on motivation fail you personally or professionally, like in your business?
Yes, that's a really great question. Where for me, and I see sometimes with my students or my audience, it happens is with fear, where you're afraid to do something. So you procrastinate. So for me, it was like waiting to be like if I just wait long enough, I'm going to be motivated. Like I have to do this webinar or I have to put on this workshop, and I'm putting together these slides really because I'm afraid. I'm afraid they're not going to be good enough. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. It's all these fears and stuff. So what that does is then manifests itself into procrastinating. So then I put it off really because I'm like, right, but if I wake up the day before this webinar, I'm for sure going to be motivated to do it because it's the day before. And so putting it off for a long time, waiting to be motivated, when I could have done 2 weeks in advance, I could have done like 10 slides a day and I would have been fine, right? I would have been like, hey, I just got 10 slides done today. It's good. And that is how I do to this day. That's how I put together classes. And I do a lot of live classes, and I just do like 10 to 15 slides a day for about a week. And I'm like, good. I got those done. Now I'm done for the week. So I'm not waiting for that like push of motivation, that big like push to do something great. I'm now creating those little steps. But before, I would become scared and I would procrastinate doing those things in my business because of the fear, just almost waiting to be motivated, like waiting for that motivation. And really what the motivation ended up being was I had a time crunch, and then I was more stressed. And to be honest, the work suffered because then you're just super stressed and you don't have the time to creatively think about things. You end up making mistakes, and then you go into, say, this live class and I'm like, I have this typo here that I didn't have enough time to even notice. Like it suffered a lot, where I could have just done, like I said, 10 to 15 slides a day. Or if for somebody listening, like it could be 30 minutes of work towards something a day. And then all of that builds up. And by the end, you have this beautiful project that got done and you didn't procrastinate on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of listeners can definitely resonate with that. I have shared in a previous episode about procrastination being like your friend or foe, or like productivity medicine. So for me, I don't think that I procrastinate based off of needing motivation, but I do procrastinate because I do work really well under pressure. So I'm a little bit opposite of you, but it depends on what I can procrastinate on. So I don't procrastinate on everything. And there's only certain projects or tasks that I have found that, because I'm a perfectionist, that I really need to have it within a very tight time frame. Because if I were to do slides, like you said, like 15 slides a week or a day, I would rework those dang 15 slides 100 times before they were due. So I know that part about my personality. So I can see both sides of this. And that's what that other episode really dives into, is that there's some people that absolutely should never procrastinate. And there's others that you just need to figure out, if it is right for you, what types of activities they may be right for you in.
Right. And I think that, like, hearing you say that, that's how my brother was growing up. Like, he was the kid that just did his homework kind of like last minute. I saw it as last minute, but he got, he had a 4.0 in college. Like, the kid did really well. So I actually don't think that that's procrastination. I think that's knowing when the best time for you to work is. For me, it's procrastinating because I'm putting it off. But I view someone that works best under pressure as someone that's they're not really putting it off. They're just saying like, I know I'm going to work best at this time. So I'm just going to wait and work best at that time. And that's really good to know about yourself. Like, that's awesome that you know that you're like, listen, if I do those 10 slides a day or whatever I'm doing, like working this thing, I'm just going to keep going back to it and try to perfect it. And it's going to be worse than it was. So no, I'm going to wait till the last minute, get it done, and then it's done.
Yeah, totally, totally. So I wanted to circle back on this one too. So I'm obviously a coach, and I say obviously not I shouldn't have said it that way. All I meant was my listeners have heard me talking about being a coach before. That came out so wrong. Okay. But what I was saying is that I think that oftentimes people think that coaches are there to motivate you. And I do not believe that that's a really good relationship to have between coach and client or coachee. And I look at it a little bit different. I see it that it's my job to empower them. And it's a slight difference between motivation and empowering. But the reason I'm saying this is because it goes back to your definition, and how you described that it's up to you to take that action. And that if they feel motivated when they're on the call with me, what happens 2 hours after the call? What happens the next day when I'm not around them? So I feel that it's my job to empower them to see within them that they have what it takes to take that action, even when myself, the coach, isn't there motivating them to do so. Because ultimately, the end of the day, I want them to get consistent results in their business, not just the day that we have a coaching call or the week that we have a coaching call.
Yeah, I absolutely, completely agree. Like I have like the preachy hands put up right now because that's exactly how I feel. It's how I feel with my students, with my audience. It's how I feel when I talk to people about even that giving their kids chores to do. Like my job is not to motivate my children to want to do things they don't want to do. My job is to give them the power, the empowerment, and the confidence they need to do it when I'm not around. That's what I want. And I want my students to do the same. I want them to feel like the motivation is inside them. It doesn't come from me. I'm there to help them. I'm there to be, like I say, I'm there as a safety net, not a hammock. I'm there to catch them when they fall, but I'm not there to like hold them and cradle them because they need to do that themselves. So I think that that's awesome that you say that because that's not what a coach does. A coach shouldn't be there to like just be your motivation all the time. You should be there to empower them, which is what you're doing, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think that you probably hit on that with your clients too, is that they need to find out, like, why do they even want to create these systems and run their home like a business? Like there's a bigger why behind that should really empower them or could be really empowering them to do those consistent actions. Because like you had said, when we opened up this interview, like nobody wakes up and wants to like clean toilets or whatever those things are. But let's take that as a parallel. I can replace cleaning toilets with 1,000 things in our business as business owners that we don't want to do, but still have to get done.
Yeah. And that's why I, like you had touched on delegation early on. And that's why I delegated things out in my business because I don't want to do them. I don't want to be creating podcast graphics. I don't want to be scheduling stuff on my social media. I don't want to be creating the design for a PDF. I don't want to be figuring out photo shoots. I don't want to be doing any of that. I want to be in my zone of genius, which is creation of my stuff. No one can record the podcast for me. No one can write my blog post for me. No one can write my emails, but someone else can schedule them. Somebody else can go in and do the stuff with them. So the same goes for someone's home. You can get other people to help you out in your house doing things that you may not like to do or want to do or may not be in your zone of genius. You could just get someone to help you, even just for a few hours a week. It doesn't have to be a full-time thing, but even getting like a mommy's helper or a house cleaner or someone to help you with meals once a week, whatever it is. Same goes for your business and your home, getting people to do those things for you because it lightens the load on you. And then you can focus on the things that you really want to be focusing on.
Yes. Okay. So I am going to do something I don't normally do, but I think we're going to talk about, I'm going to call it an additional topic to the overall topic that we're doing because I think you're the person to talk to about this. So I am all about delegation. And the truth is I didn't always have the money and the resources to delegate. So I really like this idea of starting small and then building up because if you're delegating correctly, that should mean that you're reclaiming time, money, and energy to focus on activities that potentially could be making you more money in your business, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Or even if it's not directly relating to income producing activities, perhaps it's providing more of a balanced feeling, like you have more of a balanced life. So maybe you're reclaiming a couple hours a week because you have someone cleaning your home. That doesn't mean you need to go work 2 more hours in your business. That could really be those 2, 3, 4 extra hours of sleep you needed a week. So it doesn't need to be exactly for time producing activities, but if it's reclaiming time, money, or energy, I think it's a huge win. In my personal business, my first business goal, and this was long time ago, so don't laugh, but my very first business goal was that the very first profits my business produced was to hire a house cleaner.
Right.
Well, I laugh because you would think you would have bigger goals than that, but I'll call it my first milestone goal was that I didn't want to spend my Saturdays cleaning. And so if I was going to be working 40 plus hours getting this business off the ground, I had spoken to my husband and made an agreement. I'm like, the first profits that get pulled out of the business, I'm hiring a housekeeper. And I've had her ever since. And I think it's the best investment ever. And then since then, have been able to stack, just as my business has grown, been able to stack additional delegation so that my household is run, for me, much more effectively and doesn't take as much time or energy from me because I'm either focusing on my 2 high value activities, which is my family, so either my son or my husband, or my business. And if I'm not doing those 2 things, it's me. So actually 3 things. And anything outside those 3 things, my goal is to delegate as much of that as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. So that's how I am with my business because my home, because of the nature of what I do now, and I should say, I don't think I mentioned this, but the reason I started my business now is I owned a house cleaning business for 11 years. So like I owned that house cleaning business. I was that person that went into people's houses and gave them their time back. So for me, I don't need to delegate out stuff in my home. It kind of runs, I say it runs like a well-oiled machine at this point, which is good because that's what I'm teaching other people to do. So it'd be really crappy if like my house was horrible and I was teaching other people. But in my business, I have done that exact thing in my business because can I run Facebook ads? Sure. I learned how when I didn't have any money, when I didn't have the money to hire somebody to do it. So I learned how to do it and did it myself. I put the kind of like the sweat equity in and the time in, but time is just as much of a currency as money. So I was spending my time doing it. And when I got to a certain point, I said, I'm going to have somebody else do this. So your house cleaner was my ad strategist. I was like, as soon as I am making X amount of dollars, I am hiring somebody to do my ads. I don't care if I lose money for a month or 2 to get it off the ground. I am not doing my ads anymore. And same thing with having like an assistant and a creative director and stuff. Like you start small and you just get one person to do one little thing for you. And then you can, like you said, stack. I love that you use that word, like you stack on it and then you get back your time. So my ad strategist, that's a direct like money, like I'm paying her and I see the direct result of money coming back into the business. But my creative director that I have, it's not necessarily money that I'm getting back that I can see the direct correlation, but because I have her making better graphics and creating better photos and doing better videos, that eventually creates more income. Same with like an assistant, stuff like that. So yes, you just have to find where in your life you can get somebody else to do something for you so you can gain back the energy or the time or the money.
Yes. So, newsflash, I can totally 100% tell you I'm having you back on about how we're going to have a whole conversation about delegating and teams and stuff like that. Because
awesome.
I think that it's something that I want you to come in from the perspective of how can you do that in the home and how have you done it in your business? And then I'll come from the perspective of both home and personal because I do it personal. I'm just not the professional like you teaching the personal home delegation. So I think that would be a really great conversation for our listeners. But for today, I think that we really opened up some good things for people to just say aha about, right? Like if somebody was previously before listening to this episode, telling themselves, I need motivation, I want more motivation, or waiting for motivation, either intentionally or subconsciously, that just this shift of saying, is it really motivation that I need? Or is it perhaps momentum? And when we're waiting for motivation, that's an external, right? We really can't control whether that's going to happen or not. But when we hold the idea that what we're looking for is momentum, then we are totally being in charge of our destinies because we have the ability to take the action that will get us the momentum needed to do the hard things.
Absolutely. Amen to that. I love that you said motivation is external and momentum's internal. That is so true. Like you're in charge of what you do each day. Even if you don't believe that yet, you're in charge of that. And that's where that momentum comes in. It's the small little shifts that you make. It's the one step that you make that then makes another step and another step. The motivation is external and you're kind of just like sitting and waiting for something to happen. Someone asked me before, I think it was someone on a live, was like, well, can you give me an example of like, I don't really understand like the difference between the two. And I quickly came up with this random metaphor that was like, motivation to me is kind of like calling an Uber. Like if you call an Uber to come pick you up and want to go out and like hang out with your friends out in town and you're getting an Uber. And so you call the Uber you think about the Uber and you're like, I want the Uber. And then you sit there and you wait for the Uber to come and it never shows up. And you realize you never called the Uber. That's what motivation is. It's like, I want the thing, but I'm not willing to do the thing to get it. And momentum is picking up your phone, calling the Uber, going outside, waiting for it. And it seems like a very silly metaphor, but that's what we're doing. We literally want to be at the place where the Uber is going to take us, but we're not willing to do anything to get there. We just want to sit there and wait to be motivated. And it's like, that doesn't happen. You actually have to pick up the phone or pick up the whatever and do the thing to get there.
Oh my gosh. I was not following you there for a minute. And then as soon as you started going, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Because you lay over projects, right? Like a lot of people don't know, like they want a project or a milestone, something done in their business, and they just stay on the wishing. And they're like, isn't that great? And they'll talk to their friends about it and their mastermind group about it. And they'll even tell their coach, and perhaps they're sharing it with their spouse and all of those things, hoping that all of that's going to get them the motivation they need. When really what they need to do is break that down into some steps like call the Uber, stand outside, get in the Uber. Like that's really, really good. I think that's a great place for us to end today with that visual. Kendra, how do our listeners reach out to you, find out more about you if they should want to go find you?
Yeah. So like you said, I know that a lot of your audience, it's split between men and women, but for all of the boss moms out there, I do have a lot of great resources on my website, which is motherlikeaboss.com. And if they want to get into a resource library that I have, which is basically just videos and checklists and worksheets and all the stuff on how to kind of run your home better, then they can go to motherlikeaboss.com/vault.
Excellent. And we will have that link in the show notes as well. Kendra, thank you so much for investing your time with us and sharing your wisdom and some real life strategies of how you've utilized momentum over motivation to get the results of growing a really great business and serving women. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you for joining me with my conversation with Kendra. I am really glad that we were able to just chat about, honestly, I think that so many of us feel like motivation is all we need to succeed. And sometimes it fails us. And so this conversation really peeled back the curtains in the conversation about the power of momentum. And I'm inviting you to find that momentum in your life and business today. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, but I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned today, what will you take action on? Now, today's episode might have just been more about a mindset shift and the belief that all you need is motivation. And that the next time you hear yourself saying, I wish I had more motivation, perhaps you'll ask yourself, what action can I take to create the momentum needed to feel that motivation? I would love to hear some of your insights and takeaways from today's episode. And the best place to do that is inside the Productivity Straight Talk private Facebook community. If you're a member, I can't wait to hear your takeaways. And if you're not yet a member, don't miss out on joining us for free. You can join us by going to productivitycommunity.com. And as a reminder, if you're interested in joining my 6-month group coaching and training program, Stop the Entrepreneur Success Solution, I invite you to go take a look at the program in detail by going to amberdelagarza.com/stop. And before we close out, I want to give you a thank you. Thank you for leaving me such amazing reviews and sharing Productivity Straight Talk with other entrepreneurs that you believe would find it super valuable. You're not just sharing information, you're giving them the gift of improved productivity and maximized profits. I have a special thank you for Shantae, who recently said, regarding episode 54, this podcast was superb. I listen to podcasts consistently to learn, and I believe today's podcast, I have learned the most from that than I have in a long time. It's probably because I'm at the exact point in my business that everything you spoke about, I absolutely need to apply. Thank you so much to both of you for an excellent discussion that gets 5 stars, and thank you. Thank you, Shantae, for sharing your thoughts about episode 54. And if you missed episode 54, I was talking to Tanya Connor Green, Automation Systems, Leveraging Your Greatest Ally. You can go ahead and go back and take a listen if you missed that episode. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.